Hi everybody, this is Anthony, and I'm going to do a video in a sort of different style than I've ever made a video before today. And what I'm going to talk about is the live stream course given by Watts Atelier online, and it is the first live stream course they've ever done. It started October 11th. And well, the one I'm in started October 11th. They've been doing two for the last 2 months, and one of them has been head drawing with Eric Gist, and the other has been figure lay-ins with Jeff Watts. And so I signed up for the figure lay-in one with Jeff, and I haven't looked at the Eric one at all, so I'm not in that, and I'm only going to talk about Jeff's. So it started October 11th. And it's been going on till today, which is December 9th, and it's going to continue until the 20th. But I felt like making the video now, even though the course is not totally finished, and to talk about what I've gathered from it, and maybe it's a recap for me in this way to then finish off the rest of the course strong with a good reflection on the whole course that I've experienced so far. And basically I'm recording my Photoshop desktop here. You can see that, and I'm gonna bring in the figure drawings I've done over the last 8 weeks so far. So basically what happens in a week of this course is that you get a certain time of the week where the teacher, so in this case it's Jeff, and I'll just talk about it as if it's just this one course. I could, if I wanted to, and I might in the future, sign up for 2 courses, and then you would have 2 courses like this a week, and I could do Eric Gist's head drawing and the figure lay-ins, and then I would have to submit 2 drawings a week, which I'll talk about here. So basically I'm not going to show you anything playback wise here, because these are strictly for people who pay for the course. But I will share that each week we, as so I live in Canada, and the school is in San Diego, and so each week, since they always teach in the school, they decided to film an hour of a demo in class, so that they're filming it live. And for this course, it's happened every Wednesday morning, and so I can log in to the Watts Atelier website on the online student account and all that, and I can watch Jeff do 10 or 2 10-minute poses with a live model in front of him, and he draws those, and then they take a 10-minute break, and then the whole classroom, if you were there, they would all gather around Jeff's drawing pad. And he does a 25-minute drawing where he talks, and he's with a new pose from the model, same model, and he's talking and he's instructing the students while he draws, and that's how he teaches and how everyone at the school teaches. So it's drawing and it's talking while you draw, and it's demoing in front of the students with the live model there in charcoal, in the Conte pencils or the Wolf Carbon. Or the various other kinds of pencils that are sharpened in that way. You can watch my sharpening YouTube video, how to sharpen those pencils, if you haven't seen it. So anyway, I'm not going to play this because it's only for me and the other students who are signed up for this course. But basically, after it streams live, then it goes on the website, and I get to watch from the very beginning of the course each of these videos as many times as I want, and and basically play back and get more information. And if I miss it that week, if I miss watching it live, then I have it here, and that's super beneficial for watching Jeff draw over and over again, and practice on his own in 10-minute sessions when he's not talking to the other students, and just see him draw. And so that's really great. And then basically on this same page, I'm given 3 photos of the model that he drew from. In one pose is very similar to the pose he does the 25-minute demo with, and then 2 other poses. and I get to draw. I get those pictures, and then I can draw. My homework is to draw one of them, and in 20 to 40 minutes as a lay-in, and to hand it in by a certain date by the end of the week. And then the following week, there's another one of these streams, and there's another 3 model pictures, and then I hand another drawing, and it's just week by week till the course is done. And in the meantime, after every homework assignment is drawn and then handed in over email, then he eventually sends us these videos week by week, and basically prints out the drawings every student sends him. And there's about 10 to 15 of us who are taking this figure laying class, and he prints out the drawings, and he films himself just sitting down on his drawing pad and putting tracing paper over top of the drawing of each drawing. And then, so as a student, I get to watch every other student also get critiqued. And he'll do it in a way so that, like in this drawing, he's working on a head of someone's head, and he's tracing over and making, showing what he would do. And then he raises the tracing paper so you can only see the tracing paper like this and not the student's drawing underneath. And he'll go through each student, and he'll be like, okay, I'll do the head on this one, I'll do the arm on this one, I'll do the leg on this one. And then I'll switch pictures because there's 3 pictures to choose from. So he'll do all the drawings that need critiquing from one photo, and then he'll move on and do the next photos, and kind of that way. So, and these are usually an hour or hour and a half or so. Usually hour. And so it's really great. It's been fantastic to get critiqued and to see other students get critiqued. And I have a plan, which I'll share with everyone in this video, as to what I'm going to do once this course is over and how I'm going to utilize what I get from the course. And so basically at the end of this course, I'll have these critiqued videos. I'll have these live archive videos. I'm not sure how long these are going to stay up, what their plan is to basically once the course is over, are these going to be there for us to watch? I'm not sure. But so I got these critiques, I got these, and then I have 3 photos of all kinds of different models from every week of drawing. So back to Photoshop, and let's just go. I might throw these in if I want to draw over them and kind of correct my own artwork. But basically, this was my first lay-in, and so the model, she sort of, my likeness is not terribly far off, but it's kind of far off. So as you can see here, looking back here, and reflecting on what I've gathered and how to approach a figure lay-in. So the course is all about 20-minute figure lay-ins, and I said you can do a drawing in 20 to 40 minutes just because depending on where you are skill-wise, you might not be able to get a whole lot down in 20 minutes. And if I was in San Diego and I was in the Watts Atelier classroom, the model would only pose for 20 minutes and then they'd switch poses. But in this case, I have a photo and I can spend 40 minutes on it to actually get the whole body in, which might not be always the case if I didn't have that much time, just because of the way how quickly I'm drawing and how efficiently and effectively I can make marks that equal a good picture. So at this point, I didn't mark the time and how long this took me on the picture. Usually, you'll see in next pictures that I've added the time into here to indicate to Jeff how long it's taken me to draw this. So anyway, looking at this, you can see I started shading pretty quickly. I got some really, some darks in here that are quite dark. Taking a photo of my picture, I'm just using my Canon camera, and it distorts. Well, it's a photo, and the lighting I have is not like photography professional, so I do a little thing on Photoshop to correct it and make it whiter than the scan or the photo taken of it, which is yellow, quite yellow like that. So the lines that you see may be a little distorted in terms of value and how dark or light they are as I take a picture and scan it in like that. But what I do notice is that I have some of these things called abstraction lines with Jeff, and if you take any of the Watts Atelier course, you'll hear a lot of. Basically, lines based on the anatomy of the form, the human figure, and it's a primary thing that Jeff teaches, and the whole school and all the instructors will teach you. So I have them. I have a few of them, like those lines there, from the acromion process on the shoulders down to the crotch, and from the thighs up into the sides of the neck. But I quickly kind of go and end up doing sort of a contour drawing in some senses. Like there's nothing on the legs for form and indicating the way the leg is shaped. If I was going to draw over top of this, which I will do, so I'm going to throw this in here and just take a bright red. Basically, not that I would do this, oops, but not that I would do it exactly like this. I think my Wacom's acting a bit funny. But there's, the form of the leg, which goes all the way like this. Something Jeff mentioned earlier on in the course for me to look at and practice just by seeing my drawings was Mannequin Izing, which is also part of the Watts Atelier program. And it's based on making the drawings into geometric forms, because that's the simplification needed to design them and invent them, also from imagination, because that's much easier than working with the anatomy, which I don't know well enough to really work with yet. And I'll talk about what I'm going to practice next, basically next self-taught term that I'm doing from my house with books and with online schools. So I do have these abstraction lines a little bit, right? Those, and from here basically down to the crotch. But yeah, it's just it's not too formy, and I go into detail too quickly, I think, in this one. For however many minutes it took me to do it, I'm not sure. We'll see. But let's go look at the next photo. This one is a male, and I actually drew it once. I drew it like this, and it had a lot of proportion issues, like, the shading and stuff. I went into it too quickly too, and all the proportions are off. Like, his crotch is way too low, and just a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's a whole lot of issues. With the proportions in this first image I drew, and so I redrew it, and I actually traced over my previous drawing, and I tried to fix a bunch of stuff, and I did. I did fix a bunch of stuff, but I don't remember what Jeff specifically said on this, but he pointed out a bunch of stuff that also needed fixing. So that was that one, and this is, I guess, what I was talking about with the previous drawing of the female. Had too much detail on the head, and this one I kept really simple. He actually worked on the head when he critiqued this, and didn't really add more information, but just made it better. Just more properly placed lines to make this form in a simplified manner of the head. One thing I picked up from this course that I never really understood before, and I've had to look closely at drawings to see it. Well, not drawings, well, Jeff's drawings, but also photo reference to see how he's seeing this in the photo. And at the school, the photo reference is all, the models are up there and they're lit in 500 watt lighting. And the reason for that is because it makes really crisp cast shadows, form shadows, core shadows, the whole shebang of shadows. But the core shadow is where the darkest shadow that happens in between the light and the dark of a shadow, or of where a shadow is. So, for example, I'm not going to show you the photo, but basically, I didn't really draw it in here, but in this chest area, there's the light, and it hits here, and it's creating a light all around here, and then when it starts to turn into shadow, we get the darkest shadow before it goes into sort of a lighter shadow for the rest of this stuff. So I didn't really understand that. I saw that before, but I didn't understand why they use the 500 watt lighting. Now I understand that from this course. I also started to understand why Jeff says that the top of a shadow should be soft. Top of a shadow. Basically that, like these shadows on the ribs here, this is soft on top and hard underneath. And I don't know if I can say why right now, because I find it still kind of difficult to see in the photo reference. But I do see it. It's it's a very subtle edge difference, and it's not depicted well in this at all, just because my brush is all funny. But basically, if I was going to draw it, basically shadow, soft on top, and then the edge is hard underneath, and that creates a better realism. Basically, it makes it look realistic because that's how it actually is. For whatever reason, I'm gonna figure that out. So anyway, that was my next one. And oops, we'll go on to number 3. So week 3, I drew a female, and I drew her like that. And Jeff's comments on this one were mostly that my leg should be more like Bridgman style leg, which is that it needs a good rhythm to be like out and then in like this, so that it can be a really more it's a more appealing look to have a leg that's got this rhythm like this. And even though we do have a shin, or like our bone does not bend that way, so in this drawing here down below, where I drew this on the image, that's a little much, but this curve is a little much, I'm saying. But that rhythm goes with the calf, and then it goes up into the calf, and then it goes up into the quadricep, and can connect to the body, here, and that's the head of the trochanter that connects down here, and like that, or whatever. So anyway, that was his comments here mainly. Probably some other things. I notice a lot of issues with this compared to the drawing or the photo reference. I don't know if I'm not going to really draw over this a whole lot to make it better right now, but there are some differences that I notice just, from this effort. And you can see I'm starting to try and pick up on some of that shadow I was talking about, of making the edge underneath it darker or crisper and then soft on top. And I shaded this in so dark. Jeez. Unless the photo, some distortion from the photography. And this is a 40-minute. And so I started to label the minutes up there in each photo or down below. Number 4. I started to pick up on another thing Jeff points out a lot, which is turning shadows into design shapes, basically. So instead of looking at a picture and being like, oh, the shadow's kind of like blurry like that, and it kind of does this, and trying to copy it exactly too, but also not knowing the anatomy, and so not being able to design it in any sense of design. So basically, to re-say what I just said in a messy way, is that there's a bunch of anatomy on this dude, on any person, and I don't have it memorized. I do not know it well enough to draw this without reference, and I could maybe take guesses and make something decent because I've drawn a fair amount of figures now, but it would miss a lot of points that would make it absolutely realistic. And even in this drawing, compared to other drawings that are out there, like Jeff Watts and these masters of anatomy, the information I'm indicating is probably, it's not 100% accurate, because I don't know how to track the muscles with the shadow patterns without photo reference, or even with photo reference. I can only follow the photo and I have to copy it, and I can't invent it because I don't know it. I don't have it memorized how this muscle would look underneath the skin, or where the bone is, and how it is turned. Is it like does the bone look like that? Or does, for some reason, the way the muscle or the whatever the bone looks like, does it have a different angle to it? Fairly similar, but even there's a difference with those two little terrible drawings I just did. So yeah, I don't know that. So with this image, I actually looked and referenced the drawing that Jeff did, because he drew the same pose. So I had the photo of the model in a pose similar to the pose he drew, and then I had his drawing of that pose. And the one thing is, this head should be lower, and even just doing that, it gives him more of the hunched look that he actually had, because his neck was just way too long. So if we do that, then it fits more of his body posture, and we can get a sense that it looks more natural. And he should have, he has a neck under there somewhere. But anyway, this, I thought I was pretty happy with this one. I didn't. I copied Jeff's quite a bit when I drew it, so I matched these shadow patterns, and I linked them together, and I saw how he was linking them together to make a more interesting shape, rather than copying what I see completely, but instead designing it based on his drawing, not based on my understanding of anatomy and how I can manipulate it or use it to indicate something I don't necessarily see in the drawing, or indicate what I see in the photo, but indicate it better and more interestingly. So that is my 4th week. Oops. I believe this is my 5th, and I was pretty happy with this when I did it. The one thing I definitely noticed was that this is not connecting the shadows if I leave this just hanging out in the open, and especially this is actually like a shadow of the hand or something like that. So to leave that out like that was not at all how the photo was meant to be or showed me. And then it actually, if I was gonna erase this, oops, undo that, it was more that it linked up somehow like this, and then I totally just missed this shadow pattern too. So this whole thing was actually shadow, something like that. And I took the photo and I designed it differently than the model, and I slimmed her down quite a bit, where she actually, so I made her like, less thick in the waist here in this area. But Jeff didn't think it looked that good actually, because he thought, I pinched her a little too much. So he talked a fair bit about Gil Elfgren. I think that's how you say his first name. And he's a pinup artist, and I was aware of him before because he talks about him in the Watts online program as well, and how he does these feet that really, point downwards and are like a woman wearing high heels. And he did pin up, and so he would often make these feet that are like, sort of this elegant form or whatever. And mainly in this area of the feet, how it was so pointy down, and he would take his models and kind of exaggerate that. And kind of like a ballerina kind of deal. And so another thing I'm going to do, and I'll talk about this when I get to it, is what I'm going to practice from Gil Elfgren and study the way he would alter his photo reference and design his female form, because it is a very appealing way how he did it. And I tried it in a way, and I was pretty happy with it, but I do see problems in it now after doing it. And I was getting better with the pencil. I had not practiced with the charcoal pencil that much before starting this course in October because of my overuse of my hand and needing to rest from art a little bit. So the pencil itself is difficult to use, and it's well worth it, I think, in the end, especially to learn how to paint, because you're learning how to paint in the same way you're learning how to draw, because of the tool and how you use it. But it is difficult, so just going into it without trying it for the first time or whatever is not for the first time, but you know what I'm saying. It's hard to use, so I was getting used to using the pencil at the same time that I started to draw these figures. So I got better at using the pencil over time. And we'll continue to use it and get better. Okay. Let's see here. So this one, Jeff commented how in the photo reference, this shadow was way less subtle and not very dark. Not dark like this. It did not pop out like this at all. I could basically erase it and the image would make more sense because it was like shouldn't have shown up as strong as I made it in this image. So if I erase it, basically, it was more like that. So and this, I don't even know why. I was looking at this shape after Jeff critiqued it because he talked about it, and that shoulder thing, this is the deltoid, and it's not shaped like that, and I know that much about my anatomy regarding this. And for some reason, he had a little bright spot, but it was not like that, so I way exaggerated it. what Jeff commented on when he saw this also was how my shading looked rough. And it is, I'm aware I need practice with my shading, but he said make sure you have smooth paper you're working on. And I had one pad of smoother paper than what I drew this on, so I felt the difference, and then I started to look into paper, and I'm gonna start drawing on much smoother paper than what I drew this on, because it wasn't rough. It was called fine tooth, but it's much rougher than the smooth stuff I had. So I'm going to start using it, and it'll make a difference, I'm sure. Even though shading itself can use some help, regardless of the paper. So anyway, I'm changing my edges here. He commented, this guy's a big guy, and that this leg should actually be almost like out to here in distance, because this guy's like 6 feet, and that this foot was too big, and that the head was too small, I think. And the shoulder actually in the image was in more, which that looks better already. Just that little shoulder thing looks better. So proportion issues. This should be longer, actually, this elbow. Maybe this out more. So Jeff would draw over top of the image on tracing paper, and he'd kind of make all these adjustments in a way and talk about them and do this, and then I could see what he's saying. But if I was just to take my drawing, as I drew it, I obviously missed these fixes, but I did draw it in 45 minutes, and in a way, that doesn't change the fact that these are wrong, but or that they look worse than if they were put in this way. But at the same time, I could take this drawing after the fact, look at it, and I'm seeing it with the same, if not slightly adjusted, refinement of how I can see things visually and understand them. Like my proportion and my ability to observe it doesn't change that much in a few weeks of practice, like it does from me to Jeff, who's been teaching for 25 years, and then we're doing art for even longer. So he can tell immediately where all these errors are, where I cannot. So that's why this instruction has been so good. And what I want to say, and I'll say it in the next one, is that I'm going to make a video talking about the Schoolism course I'm taking, which I'm also getting critiques on right now, which is Jonathan Hardisty's Essentials of Realism Schoolism class, Essentials of Realism. And I've taken it before, self-taught, so the same thing as I just mentioned. I could do the assignment, and then I could look at my drawing and be like, well, I guess it could be better. I could see this issue, sort of, and stuff like that. But I can't so directly be like, well, this should be like that, and that's like too big, and this arm is there, and you got these issues, and you're looking at it in this way, but you should look at it in this way, and all that stuff. So that's where these teachers are so great. So this image here I have not sent in yet, and so I have not gotten a critique on it. And I don't think I have time. Maybe I should or could still redraw it. I have a little bit of time, but I also have my Schoolism work to do. So I might just do that instead. And Jeff might mention the issue I'm seeing, but he'll point out, I'm sure, things I haven't seen, which then I can work on. And I don't know if this is worth redrawing just to fix that issue, just for the homework assignment when I have other homework to do. So anyway, the main issue I see, I'm gonna do this on a new layer. The main issue I see is that his head, it almost looks like his chest dips in too much into where the collarbone indication I put is. I feel like collarbone should be more like, just a little bit to the left. And then his neck and his head should be... that's terrible. This pen, the properties aren't working. It's all fat and it has no pressure sensitivity right now. I just feel the head should be... I'm just going to be a big shade in there, so I'm not messing with my drawing. Right, whatever. I don't know. See, it's hard to say. I mean, that looks too big. Maybe not. Maybe it's okay. Well, like, I think on the reference, the head is a little bit to the left. Maybe if I take it and I... Yeah. Something like that, maybe. Anyway, maybe if I was gonna... I'm telling you, my pen, when it doesn't have the pressure sensitivity, it's just super terrible. This is like demoing. I'm demoing for you guys right now, and I'm nervous about it because because my tool isn't working, and other reasons for telling you why it's not as good as it should be right now. So anyway, but the one thing I did appreciate, the one thing I'm mixing together from both, well, many things, but since I'm learning from both Essentials of Realism course and Watts Atelier, I'm noticing things that blend together. And it's just all about drawing and painting, right? So in a way, I'm taking things that John has said about edges and values and blocking in shapes, and like when I drew this, I drew it with the awareness of, okay, this is like a circle here for this part of the arm, and then it squares off here. And so I'm aware of certain anatomy things, as well as working with the geometrical shapes and doing the Riley methods, which I've more pronounced here than they were in that initial drawing where I traced over them like this, the one with the female way back. And I'm using these more, and I'm trying to be more structural and more like scaffolding, like I'm making a big, a building or something, and I have the scaffolding of it, right? I want to have that before I add on an eyeball that has incredible amounts of detail, and it's in this place that if it's in the wrong place, then I've wasted 20 minutes putting in an eyeball that I have to erase because I put it in the wrong area, right? So that's what a lay-in is, and why it's important, and why it takes most of your thinking process in the first 20 minutes of drawing. And ideally, I would do a really good lay-in in 20 minutes, and then I'd spend the rest of the time just building it up. And always building it up from... This is the Watts way, is to build it up from, you start with the head, shoulders, neck, crotch, legs, ground. I'm not sure how he says it, but basically it's top to bottom. And then as I get like one stick figure, kind of image down, then I would build on that stick figure from top to bottom again and add like more anatomy and details. And then once again, and then we get a more finished kind of look and all that. And so that's basically how you work. And so you're never, you're always going through the image like one pass, two pass, three pass, and then you end up with a final image. And but what I wanted to comment on regarding the melding of Jonathan Hardisty's course with this is that when I drew this head, I was not drawing it so much structurally. I was doing a little bit of this kind of structural building, like using the Loomis head and kind of building a head like this kind of thing. Again, I'm using all the pen excuses. My pen is not working 100%, so that's what you get. But I was looking at this in shapes on the photo reference, and I was like, okay, if I squint my eyes, this all kinds of blends into one shape like that, and it connects to here. And so I drew this head much more in that way, which is what I'm learning in the Jonathan Hardesty course, than what I'm being taught and kind of learning in the Watts course. So it's all methods of drawing, but so I haven't handed this in, so I don't know what he said about what he's going to say about it, but I imagine it will be helpful, just like the other drawings I've done. And we have one more image to share with you, number 8. And what happened with this, a cool thing that they started to do starting with week 8 was also share, along with the model photos, is you would get a photo of, oh, that's weird, it didn't open. You would get a photo, oh, that's fine, of both the 10-minute figure drawings that Jeff did on one piece of paper and the 25-minute demo. And so I'd get a photo like my photo of my drawing of that and not just have it in the video, which was really awesome because you could refer to it and you could see it clearer in that way. So basically this is this week's homework, and that was last week's homework. So I haven't had this one in either, and the reason I didn't hand in last week's is because I was away for a while, and I was away exactly the time where we got the photo reference, and then when we had to hand it in, and I would have been gone that whole time, and it would have been hard, so I asked them if I could delay it and hand it in this week with this photo. So anyway, this is the first drawing I did, and I did this in 45 minutes, and then I made a few adjustments because I noticed, so it took like 1 minute to make these adjustments. Oh, that's not the right one. These are the same. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Maybe I haven't taken a picture of this yet. Or is that it? This is it. Okay. Let's throw that in here. So I haven't made the color correction. I'm going to just do that right now. Auto color. So the differences here are small. Oops. They're small. One is, oh, that's why. Okay. One is the shadow. I didn't include it, but there's this shadow here that actually connects up like that, and it completes the form of the leg and kind of does that. I also made her a little skinnier than she is in the reference, or that she is in real life. So I, but not too much. But the one thing that really kind of makes her look a little more like actually how she does is if I take this arm and I beef it out a little bit like that, compared to how I had it, which was skinnier. So that little change actually makes her look more chubby, because she is kind of chubby in the photo. But it doesn't really change much else. Well, nothing at all. So in terms of lines I have to make to actually make that change. And there's another thing, this little shadow area, I added that because that existed in the photo. And then there's actually a shadow under here that I could add, but I haven't done it. Which is no problem. I know about it. It's not a big issue. But anyway, 45-minute drawing, and pretty happy with it. I'm actually happy with the skull quite a bit. I think that turned out nice. I also was looking at the shadow shapes like that when I drew this. So I was thinking, squinting and just trying to get the shape right, and then you get the realism right. Ignore my scribbles. I'm just blabbering and scribbling about. So yeah, that's my week, my 8 weeks of figure lay-ins. Within these figure lay-ins, as well as the Jonathan Hardesty course, within these weeks that these courses have started, I have also started to do life drawing, so with live models once a week for 2.5 hours. And I've missed a couple weeks because of traveling, as I said, and stuff. But I'm really thrilled with drawing from a live model, and I think it dovetailed super nicely with this course because it's all about drawing figures in the nude. And so that was, wonderful, and is wonderful. And I'm going to continue doing it every week. And half of the session is shorter poses, like I don't know the shortest, 3, maybe 1 minute to 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But then we do quite a few 20 minutes at the end of the class or the session too. It's uninstructed. It's just with the model. And the lighting's pretty good. It's not as good as the 500 watt bulbs that Watts Atelier has, but it's decent, and we get some decent shadows and stuff I can work with and kind of explore and practice drawing with all kinds of different live models each week. So that's really cool, and it went with this course. What else can I say? I have quite a few weeks left with the Essentials of Realism course, but I'll do a video on that too because that'll be really sweet, and I can talk about it just like I did this. Few weeks left on this, and my plan for the new year, basically, this course is going to end. I'm going to sign up for the next live stream course, one of them, whatever it is. This time it was Eric Gist's head drawing and the figure laying course, which I am taking. Next time they don't have that out yet, but I'm going to register for one of the courses they offer, and probably just one. It's tempting to do 2, but probably just one. And after that, along with that, if I can do a little chart here, I will. I'll open up. A page and do a little graph of what my plan is, so you can all see. All right. So currently, I'm just going to talk about what I got from the course, which was, say, how many weeks? There's like maybe 8, 9, 10. I think it's 10 weeks. 10 weeks. My God. My God, what's the pen doing? Is it me or is it the pen? I think it's the pen. Oh God. This is not working. Oh no. Okay, 10 weeks. Let's go slower. I can speed this up, image-wise, maybe.
Might speed up my voice at the same time. We'll end this in an hour. It's a 48-minute video so far, but hopefully there's lots in it. Watch it on 2 times speed if you want, and get through it quicker. Anyway, just telling you what I do. 10-week course. In these 10 weeks, each week I've gotten 3 photos of a model. I've gotten Jeff's critique drawings. So we got the crit. We got the photos. It's because I'm recording this that it's being on a buggy and that my pen is broken. So we got the crits. We got the photos. Maybe I'll draw this and I'll make another video and then I'll just attach this to it and explain it so you can actually read it and not die by watching my scribbles. Okay. I'll make an actual chart and we can look at that.
Okay, so here I made a basic outline for what I'm going to practice for figure drawing once this course is over, and how I'm going to use the content I received from this 10-week course and what that content is. So I talked about it previously, but basically every week if I'm going to divide it up, what I get is 10 to 15 drawings by Jeff, because there's 10 to 15 students, and so he'll go into the critique video and he'll trace over each drawing in separate areas on each drawing. So he might do the leg for one student and the arm for another on a different photo, or maybe the same photo, or this head on this one and the torso on that one. So he'll draw, essentially he does a drawing per student work that he draws over top. And so I have 10 to 15 drawings each week by Jeff, different parts of different bodies, different photos as the reference. And I also have the 10 to 15 drawings from the students, and some of them are better than I am, and I can use what they put into their work, and then I can look at what Jeff drew over top and how he made them even better. So, levels of learning, and I can study all of these things from these videos. Then I also get the demos, and I get 2 10-minute sketches by Jeff, as well as one 25-minute demo drawing by Jeff. Included in that is also just the banter he does in the 25-minute demo in the video, which is full of useful information generally as well. So I get these 2 10-minute sketches and this 25-minute drawing, and I can draw both of those, and I can refer them to the photos of the model. And though the 2 10-minute poses are not, I'm not given photos of those poses, I can still refer to how he drew the model and how he drew just the drawings and those poses themselves. And I can study those and learn from those. So draw Jeff's drawings, I can do that. I can watch him draw and compare to photo reference depending how long these live archives are kept on the Watts site. And I can compare these drawings to what he draws as he traces over the student work and the critiques. So I can go back here and I can see how these drawings, he drew the model once in this pose. The student or myself may have drawn the same model, the same pose, and then he draws over that, traces over our drawings, and most likely draws it a little differently. So I can see what he did the same, what he did different, and kind of see why and use that and see the different variations of how you can make a drawing, and also develop my aesthetic appeal and be like, well, I like how he did it in the critique more than how he did it on the page, and I can use that. So it's all about just drawing, making my eye better, understanding what Jeff does that I don't do, understanding how I can do it, and trying to do it basically by studying his work and then drawing from the photos again. So it's super helpful that I have drawings and photos and all this in the combo. And you get this when you do the Watts online course, you get photos of the model and you get to see how he draws it and all that stuff. But then I also get all these additional drawings, and I get the videos, more videos that I can watch. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the online Watts school with all the content there too, because as I go into what I'm going to use the photos for, I get 3 photos every week of a different model with great lighting. And I can trace over these photos to memorize techniques and content, forgot the S there, provided by the Watts Atelier online school. So I can go into basically just take what is offered in the online school with the drawing program, the painting program, and I can use these photos and I can apply any knowledge into practicing with these photos, which relates to the following one. But basically, use these photos to reference how and why Jeff drew something a certain way, whether in the demos or in the critique traceovers. And I can use these photos in relating to all this other drawing stuff that Jeff did and I did and all that stuff. So that's awesome. And then I have this book. I went through most of it already, but just like 20-minute lay-ins, and just like Jonathan Hardisty's course, which I'll talk about when I do the schoolism review, which may be in the end of January or start of February for my next video, is that I want to really digest all this stuff that I'm learning and not fragment it so much. And I used to do, like, if you follow my blog or anything like that, you'll know that I used to be kind of self-teaching myself a lot of courses at once. So I'd be doing like one schoolism course, and then I'd be doing the figure drawing, and I'd be doing these lay-ins and this other kind of technique, and it's all great. And there's so much to learn. It's impossible really to learn it all in all at once. And even over the course of many years, people are still taking courses and stuff. And so I just want to try and do it all at once, but I'm realizing that I don't necessarily digest as much information into my brain and mind and body to be able to execute it, and rather I get sort of some of it and I can mix it with sort of someone else, but then I don't really fully grasp anything, and I don't have any sense of real depth in how I can execute it on paper without reference. So Michael Hampton's book, I think, is really great as far as I've seen, and I've studied through it already a little bit, but I do not have the anatomy memorized in the simplified forms that he suggests in this book. And so I figure that I'll go through Michael Hampton's book, and it's very progressive in how it goes page by page and chapter by chapter. And I have Jeff's drawings and the photos and all this other stuff that I can relate to, and I can understand how Jeff used the geometrical forms and the simplification of the anatomy in his drawings and relate it to how Michael Hampton does it in his book. And I can trace over the photos, and I can trace over the drawings, and I can do all that by applying the knowledge in this book. Something else that I talked about is that Gil Elvgren is an artist that Jeff talks about while drawing females most often compared to males. And so I also want to do studies of his work, and that's one of his drawings. But at the same time, if I had that, then I could say, well, I want to study this other artist and that artist and this one, and there's just an endless list of artists and of figure drawings to study. And this is a big collection of photos and artwork that I've saved on my computer, and there's an endless amount on the internet of artists and art to study. So I say Gil Elvgren studies, and I think I should just stick with him for a while and try and digest some of the ways he does stuff. But there's so much. So at the same time, what I will talk about in the next video is how I'm going to use Jonathan Hardisty's course and his content, and how I'm going to study that. And I really liked, when I was doing both these courses, the consistency of handing in one assignment a week. And as I was just getting back into drawing because of my hand overuse and tendon sensitivity and all that, it was a good amount, and it pushed me just to focus on just these things, and I didn't really do any other kind of artwork too much. Other than little sketches and ideas here and there, or whatever. But this idea of getting an assignment done a week and being pretty consistent with that and everything was really good, and it just got me to do it and to have enough time to reflect on that one thing, and to maybe try the assignment, the same kind of technique a few times rather than jumping to another assignment and things like that. And then the critique also is a huge part, which is just so helpful, and makes it really. I really felt connected with the Watts Atelier school a little more by being actually connected with the teacher on a weekly basis, and being able to submit something that got feedback, and also you're having a consistent training coach in a way. And so super helpful. I highly recommend it. And also the critique schoolism classes, which are a little more expensive than these live stream ones, but the difference is, which I'll talk about in the next video, is you get 40 minutes or 30 to 40 minutes of a critique, rather than just maybe 5 to 10 minutes within an hour video with 10 other students. And you can watch all the other students work on the schoolism ones too, so you get a lot of content to watch. And yeah, we'll talk about that next time. But so it's a lot here, and so I'm looking at all these ideas I have about how to study, and if I'm just looking at trace over these photos to memorize technique and content provided by the Watts Atelier online school. There's a lot there. That's a lot of content. Super important to learn, and that's that alone can be a list of things. But I just got to keep it something I can consistently do, something that's I'm gonna try my best to up the amount I'm doing, but this injury actually provided a lot of balance for how I was approaching art, and kind of made me appreciate even the littlest amount of drawing and painting I can get in. So in a way, it's been a blessing, but I do need to practice because it's fun. I really like drawing, and I want to continue to draw. So as I do this, I will somehow integrate these ideas and want to get to know my anatomy more in this simplified form. I think that's basically a good start to do it. And the Watts has a lot of great stuff, and I just want to really memorize the figure lay-ins and the different how to do ovoid and block form and Spider-Man mannequin, all just from memory in different poses. And watching and working with these poses too, I'll start to memorize poses, and I can pose characters I draw from my imagination in these photos. And if I draw these a bunch and stick with the same batch of 10 weeks of 3 photos each, then I think that'll be helpful for imagination kind of stuff too, and integrating some memorized photos into my into my brain so I can express them. So that's my total video here, and I'm hoping you gained something from it. I'll do the Essentials of Realism Schoolism class I'm taking in the future because I'm still in it, and I'm in the early stages. This one I have a couple weeks left, and I'm excited to finish it up. And then also, I'm just excited to keep learning and doing all these courses. And I think Jeff Watts is a great teacher. I really appreciate him in all he does, and how he does it. And yeah, so there you go. Watts Atelier live stream, 20-minute figure drawing. The first live stream course they've ever done, including Eric's, which started a couple days later. And we'll see what they come up with next term and what I get into there. So thanks for watching, and subscribe to this channel and enjoy more videos about art and voice impressions and whatever else I get up to in this life every month. Videos on the first of the month, and see you next time. Thanks.